Hello, Ivy here. This week's podcast is entitled The Magnificent Seven Coming to a Town Near You. Really looking at the latest combination of people who are apparently going to save the UK monarchy. So we'll be exploring the members of this group of seven and their efforts to travel here, there and everywhere as part of the PR exercise. And we'll go into a little bit more detail about the impact and the kind of tricks and games being played with a view to drawing in the Sussexes into the mess that is the UK monarchy and looking at the fallout from these various moves. Okay, so start off with the introduction. This podcast centres on the new king of the UK and the changes which are imminent with someone new at the helm and who has waited for most of his life to take on this role, i.e. most of his 70+ years. In usual UK monarchy style, things come into the public domain by rumour and innuendo and shade, and always by an unknown source. To help disseminate the desired message of theme from a message sent in various ways by the royal family use its media arm, the royal rota, which officially are representatives from a number of popular press here in the UK. But in reality, they are a group of tabloid newspapers which the UK population popularises as being reputable sources for news. And all those in the royal rota have an unwritten agreement to popularise the British royal family by hunting down anyone who is seen not to show deference to the family, rather than news media hold the UK monarchy to account. Officially, the royal family are seen as figurehead, honey-sweet traditional family with the odd disagreement here and there, and no knowledge or involvement in politics, because the UK monarchy is promoted as a non-political entity. Over these last few decades, the royal rota has been able to control the narrative regarding news that is released to the public. And where any dissent is shown or appears in any publication, action is swift, and within hours it disappears from view, as if it was never there in the first place. Such is the power of this honey-sweet traditional family. Any report that is published that is not so favourable is usually done as a warning to the British royal family to keep their side of the unwritten contract relative to news stories, aka gossip, about a member of the royal family. Because without it, the UK media groups will publish something less than savoury about a senior royal or someone known to the public, by association with an organisation or be a spouse of a royal. Over the UK monarchy 1,000+ history, there has always been a whipping boy, used by the king or queen as someone who would take the blame for the wrongdoings of a senior royal. Initially, slaves were used for this purpose, punished relentlessly for the deeds of another, and often thrown to crocodiles as a way to make the transgressor royal develop a conscience about his actions. The practice then moved on to using a commoner male to be a friend to the royal, and to take whatever punishment was deemed appropriate for the royal concerned. The commoner whipping boy was provided with all the privileges of the royals, for example, good education and an affluent lifestyle compared to life before becoming the whipping boy. The downside of this role is that if the person high in the line of succession is a repeated offender, due to be indulged and spoilt all his life, then the whipping boy pays a high price for the repeated punishments that had to be endured. Made worse, if the rule in question had no conscience about the suffering of their paid-for friend, in inverted commas. The practice then moved on to regard the sibling of an heir to the throne to be used as a whipping boy, and those siblings from thereon in became officially referred to as the spare. This description, based on the second child, deliberately brought into the world in case anything ever happened to the firstborn. As all supporters of the Sussexes and traditional royalists all know about the term spare, and they all know that Prince Harry was the spare for Prince William's transgressions. Incidents like the famous photo of Harry leaving a party dressed in a Nazi uniform is always shown when haters think they are being clever by showing Harry in this costume, and that he really does not like people of colour, and it is all pretence, etc., etc. What the media, aka Royal Rota, do not ever print is that everyone at that party was dressed in equally offensive garb, and Prince William was the one who suggested the Nazi uniform. Prince William left the event at the same time as Harry, but you will never find a photo of Prince William in any publication from that time, as the group all left the said party. The main theme of this podcast is looking at the rumoured likely changes under the new king and how it may or may not impact in any way on the Sussexes. The doubt about those things is that the British royal family rarely come out and say what they mean and do what they say. Their methodology is to throw out smoke bombs and see what hits and what causes the most discussion. At all times, the British royal family desired outcome is that they look good, reasonable people, and it is others who try to muddy the waters by their behaviour and attitude. Once the royal family and its media decide what will be able to fly, without too much controversy, or if it ever existed, with the lapse of time, there will be another distraction story introduced to take people's minds off the change about to be implemented. And when it is made official, the blow does not quite hurt as much. Even if it does, the media will ensure that publications will be bombarded for weeks with the stories about another fake outrage elsewhere. And over time, the drip-drip effect works, and most people's minds turn to the latest perceived crisis. It has been sport to use Harry and Meghan as the target of fake stories. The current rate is 5 articles per hour on average per tabloid, all about Harry and Meghan. Obsessive does not begin to cover it, but the UK media, tabloid press in particular, should be mindful of the consequences of such behaviour and how it can come back to bite them in the future. The internet is forever. No amount of deleting of articles, which is another practice by UK tabloids when detritus hits the fan, but nothing is ever removed from the internet. The trail is always there. We also now have very active social media platforms, and try as they might, the UK monarchy cannot control every platform. They may have friends on some platforms in high positions, but at the moment it is not a complete takeover of the country's media, though they are moving closer and closer to the UK having such a state of affairs. The UK has now developed a whole infrastructure for a pyramid of independent businesses, along with sole traders, trading in hate for income. It is very lucrative and multiple digits of income per month is being made by individuals in the hate of the Sussexes. But hate for Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, is higher in volume and therefore higher in income generation. A number of groups are actively trying to have legal entities step in to take action. This podcast channel is one of such groups and has been working as a group based across many countries to do just that. Watch this space. All these groups combined, not just this podcast community, will succeed one day. I am confident about that. A slimmed-down monarchy. The line of succession on the royal family's website shows the 22 highest-ranking members of the royal family. The king plans to reduce the monarchy to a team of just 7 key members, all senior working royals, according to the publications. There could be several reasons for this, including the royal family's reputation, according to the Times. The publication reported that the various royal press offices are left to operate in their own silos, regardless of the impact on the institution, making it more difficult to effectively deal with PR scandals. Another possible reason could be financial. Reducing the number of royals who undertake official duties would also mean reducing who is funded by the sovereign grant, the public funds used to support them, the Time reports. Another quote from another publication company, PBS. All of them that I quote from, and many more that I haven't, are all listed in the reference sources in the article. This one. Prince William and wife Kate made a surprise joint appearance with Prince Harry and wife Meghan on Saturday, warmly greeting a large crowd gathered outside Windsor Castle to remember their long-reigning monarch, Queen Elizabeth II. Their walkabout, the first time the brothers have appeared amicably together in public since March 2020, comes at a time when the younger generation of Britain's royal family must step up their responsibilities significantly. End of quote. Now, here's my thoughts on that. Amicably is beyond a reach in terms of description. The walkabout of the 4 was a favour for the UK media to have photos and to try and spin the tale that they used to spin when they described these couples as the Fab Four. It would only ever have worked if the Sussexes were docile and dimmed their light as they were requested to do many times, and to do most of the legwork in projects and then allow the next in line to the throne and his wife to step forward and grin and grimace and pose for the photo opportunities, and officially describe it as a successful project by the 4 of them. Even in the photos, the focus would have been focused on the 2 that did the least. Same old format they tried previously, and now here we were at a sad occasion where the world was watching, and someone behind the scenes thought that this was a good idea, and that people would be fooled by it all. People other than royalists who have been sucked into this cult-like thinking and just absorb whatever is fed to them via media are in a minority, and thankfully a reducing group as well. Meanwhile, in the real world, sane and observant people have not forgotten what took place over the last few years, and certainly not how the Sussexes were treated following the announcement of the Queen's death. One plane for the royals travelling to Balmoral and another for Harry. the occupants on the plane with the rest of the royal family were informed of the Queen's passing. Communication systems apparently do not function on modes of transport that Prince Harry travels in. Prince Harry was informed that Princess Meghan would not be welcomed at this family gathering. Other spouses were there, but only Princess Meghan was refused entry. Then once again, the British royal family media machine kicks in regarding the apparent moves by Prince William to bring the Fab Four back together again and to walk and meet the crowds. Yeah, right. The same Prince William who gave permission for his most senior member of staff to be a witness in the court case that had a member of the royal family taking legal action on one of the tabloids. Yet Prince William felt comfortable with his member of staff forwarding various documents to the defendant in the court case, which a member of his own family was pursuing. The same Prince William that was part of the royal family that agreed Meghan could not attend the gathering at Balmoral following the death of the Queen. But here we are being asked to believe that he suddenly felt compassion for his sister-in-law, that for the last 6 years he played a prominent role in trying to destroy her in any capacity. Prince William is a very poor actor at portraying interest in any people he's meant to interact with, and worse if he has to show compassion. To his credit, the stakes must have been high with the invisible contract with UK media tabloids, because he was most professional, and the smiles and hand gestures for Meghan to step forward when it was clear she was staying right at the back, not to be accused of trying to claim the limelight, etc., was a scene that the UK press will live off for years to come. On this occasion, Duchess Kate did not get that memo, and where we usually see the manic grin and the bulging eyes, which are meant to display happiness and joy to meet the people, the mask has slipped a few times for the Duchess of Cambridge, and the mean girl look and spirit flies off her face with ease. So too, on this worldwide viewership of the Fab Four, Duchess Kate did a very good display of the evil character in a pantomime. The glare and the intimidation and the passive-aggressive body movements towards and in the vicinity of Princess Meghan was as clear as crystal, and the global audience viewed and captured it all. Like clockwork, UK media rags tried to spin stories that Duchess Kate was anxious to heal the rift. Not a soul believes that, apart from royalists. This is more to do with damage control. There are so many images of that death stare from Kate and her coven during a period of mourning. It was shameful and totally unnecessary. I could say more, but in order to avoid any comeback from whoever, like so many Sussex supportive channels experience, I will just leave that there. The press can write whatever fantasy tales they wish for their gullible audience, but the majority of people know what we all saw, and not for the first time either, and we all have receipts for such behaviour. The Duchess and her royal coven did a complete replica of their behaviour during the Commonwealth service in March 2020, in a place of worship, of all places. The true colours were on display in front of a global audience. I dread to think what had been taking place since 2016. Now, the latest fake tale in the tabloids that there is desire for the Fab Four to forget everything and come back together. Forget the treatment by the firm and its media pals that led to suicidal ideations and later contributed to a miscarriage. The articles in tabloids and the comment sections in the tabloids on all royal social media platforms were disgraceful. And yet, we have had Duchess Kate given another role related to people who have suffered miscarriages. The same person who cannot handle the number of causes she already has to her name, and after a decade in the role, every year we still hear that she's coming into her own. After 20 years of being around the royal family, one would think that by now this person would have grasped knowledge on at least one subject. In tandem with his wife, the Duke of Cambridge also has not had achievements logged for any project that he's been involved in. So, between them, neither have produced any outcome, just high-profile launches of initiatives and then silence. Another quote from a publication. William, long second in line to the throne, is now the heir apparent, after his father, King Charles III, became Britain's new monarch upon his mother's death. That means William and Kate, both 40, and parents of 3 young children, immediately assume a much more central role as the new face of the monarchy. William and Harry had been on frosty terms since Harry quit as a senior royal and moved to the US 2 years ago. Their show of unity on Saturday was reportedly initiated by William and left some observers hoping that Harry might return to the fray and support his elder brother in sharing the heavy workload now on William's shoulders. Certainly William and Catherine, as the new Prince and Princess of Wales, will be even more in the media spotlight if that's possible, said Joe Little, managing editor of Majesty magazine. Until Thursday, there was a buffer between him and the throne. That buffer has now been removed. Long before he ascended to the throne, Charles indicated that he wanted a slimmed-down monarchy with a tighter core group of full-time working royals and lower expenses. What is a working royal? Extracts from the Metro publication, link is in the article, is as followed. A working royal is a member of the royal family who represents the king at official engagements. In representing the king, a working royal will often perform any duties as needed, including meeting with international dignitaries, hosting official state dinners and other events, attending parliamentary and constitutional functions, handing out honours, carry out international trips and tours, opening buildings. All of this is done on the King's behalf. Any event like this, done in the name of another charity or organisation, doesn't count as a working royal's duty. This is why royals who are patrons to different charities might carry out lots of functions, like Beatrice and Eugenie, but they aren't considered working royals. It must be on the monarch's behalf. Because being a working royal is considered a full-time job. Living costs, accommodation, and any expenses not covered by the appropriate government department, such as overseas travel and security costs, are covered by the king. I'm doing my best not to interject with some views on that bullet point list that I've just read out. Yeah, I best not say anything. I think you can guess what I'm thinking. Let's carry on. The seniority of that working royal will be negotiated between the various government bodies, Buckingham Palace ambassadors or high commissioners in the overseas country to ensure that the person is of appropriate standing to achieve the task at hand. So who are the confirmed full-time working royals? First is King Charles, who became king upon his mother's death on September the 8th. King Charles III is now the head of state. Charles had already taken over some of the duties normally reserved for the monarch due to the Queen's ailing health in recent months. This included the opening of Parliament. The next working royal, Queen Consort Camilla. Camilla will be the Queen Consort when Charles takes to the throne. The Queen confirmed earlier this year that Camilla will be Queen Consort when Charles ascends to the throne. Prior to becoming Queen Consort, Camilla, who was the Duchess of Cornwall, often carried out duties either with Charles or alone. The Duke and Duchess of Cornwall and Cambridge, Prince William and Kate Middleton. William and Kate recently completed a royal tour of the Caribbean on behalf of the Queen. That's where that sentence ends, and I don't think I need to add anything more to that because we all know how that went. The newly confirmed Prince and Princess of Wales, who also hold the titles of Duke and Duchess of Cornwall and Cambridge, Prince William and his wife Kate Middleton, have stepped up in recent years to take on more royal duties on behalf of the Queen. As heir apparent, William will likely take on even more duties now, picking up tasks his father used to perform as the previous Prince of Wales. Their children, Princes George and Louis and Princess Charlotte, will join them on the balcony for trooping the colour. Anne, the Princess Royal. Anne is considered one of the hardest working royals. Princess Anne, the Queen's only daughter, is considered one of the hardest working royals, regularly topping the list of most official engagements carried out annually. This year, Anne took on a tour of Australia and is rumoured to become the first female head of the Marines. Anne's husband, Vice Admiral Timothy Lawrence, is not a working royal, but he will join Anne on the balcony for trooping the colour. The final two, the Earl and Countess of Wessex, Prince Edward and Sophie. Edward and Sophie are working royals. The Queen's youngest son, Prince Edward, and his wife Sophie are working royals who regularly represent the Queen on various occasions. Their children, Lady Louise Windsor and James Viscount Severn, are not working royals, but they will join their parents on the balcony for trooping the colour. Coronation date of King Charles is not an issue. I have never been a royalist, and therefore what were deemed, important dates in a royalist calendar meant zero to me. I have never followed the royal family, and I only got to know names of some of them when Princess Diana came onto the scene. Prior to that, I only knew of the Queen and Prince Philip and Charles and Anne. I recognised their images displayed anywhere, but I never read any of the articles, because why would I? Princess Diana brought light and magnetism into the UK monarchy, and like clockwork, they went overboard with their antics to close her down. Social media was not around like it is today. Princess Diana pretty much had to face the barrage of establishment negativity, all upon instruction by the firm, operating to their tried and tested playbook. My interest stayed with Diana's boys, and pretty quickly it remained only on Prince Harry. When Meghan joined the scene, I was excited to see what they do and how. By the time January 2020 came along, I was relieved to hear that they were stepping back, and I began counting down the days when the royal family had the spotlight back that they craved, because unlike them and their usual lack of awareness, I knew it would be a poison chalice for them, and one I would relish every day thereafter. Royal Rota were confident enough to put in print that from April 2020 they would not cover the Sussexes because they were, as we all know, were described as irrelevant, and they would focus on the British royal family. Counting down the days to the freedom of the Sussexes, freedom from royal reporters. That day never came. The Sussexes were free and were crossing every hurdle that the establishment put in their way. UK tabloids became relentless in their search for a story that they could make money from, like in the old days when they first heard of the Harry and Meghan partnership forming, and all efforts were made to destroy this union. Now, here we are. We all were in 2020, and Meghan and Harry had indeed left the UK. And so began the start of the existing hate incitement rhetoric, being taken to the next level. And as discussed in SGUK podcasts, the movement through academic models of hate and prejudice has been scaled in those models, and we are now very near the top. The explosion of paid bots on social media platforms, along with the deranged individuals with no life, all posting day and night, hate-inciting posts, and many people have now joined in purely for the money that they can earn each month. Huge sums of money. The resourcing and the backing of the high volume of bots posting against black women in successful positions and lifestyle can only come from a limited pool. I am sure that there is a chain in place to ensure that the person or people at the top are never identified. I am confident that they will be, even if it is decades down the line before it is made public. The history books will reflect a much wider spectrum of authors than the clowns who write books on the royals and in recent years have written books on Meghan or Harry or both, but yet criticise Harry writing his own about his own life and his views on the impact of some of those experiences. The irony. All the books suddenly written and published around the time they all thought Harry would be publishing his are full of gossip and innuendo, all coming from sources, all unnamed sources, and not one of these books have had a conversation with the Sussexes or their team. The global support network of the Sussexes have receipts, much of which has been removed from view by the royal establishment. Our receipts are top class, and they are ready to challenge one day. The records will show what went on here on Shutter Island, otherwise known as the UK, and it will definitely give balance to the fairy tales written every day and sugarcoating members of a figurehead family in the media, and describing it as deference and respect. Respect is earned and is not given because of a job title, particularly a job title that was pulled from a cookie jar in the dark, and think somehow the titles and the toy military badges make the individuals wearing such medals and the titles that appear after their name as something above any other member of the UK population outside of the British royal family. It makes them seem like toy soldiers who all want to be everyone's favourite toy, and if they are not, they expect an order to be made to ensure that we all behave a certain way because of their entry into the world via a particular person. So, what will be the future of UK monarchy? I have included reference sources which contain a number of thoughts by UK tabloids on the future of the monarchy. Despite claiming to be separate newspapers, really and truly, the UK might just as well produce one daily newspaper and declare all these fake tales as truth, all in one place. The pretense only fools royalists. One day they will wake up and recognise the official state that the UK is turning itself into, and still trying to pretend that its news publications, both printed and televised, are not all singing from the same hymn sheet, as per the invisible contract. There really is no need for so many newspapers, and definitely no need for the number of people who comprise the royal rota, who also all tell the same story as per the agreed direction of travel. That state of affairs will remain by the usual societal groups because they all benefit from the current system. But what the establishment fears most is increased awareness and understanding and comprehension of what is put out as news as the next few years go by. It will be the same for all the remaining monarchies in the world, but the UK is certain to be one of the earlier ones that disappears from the landscape. No group, cult or cabal or equivalent can do the deeds that this group has done, where people have been harmed or worse over the course of history. The king and his heir can say all the right words on a wide range of subjects, and even go as far as claiming to support mental health and legal processes, miscarriages, bullying and harassment, online hate channels, targeted hate channels aimed at one person, just to name but a few causes this monarchy claimed to support. And yet, within their own family, all of those things have been ignored in respect of the best thing to happen to the British royal family, i.e. the first person of colour to enter such a space. An intelligent and accomplished person who carried out her royal duties above and beyond what the family or its media ever expected, and thereby lies one of the largest problems for this monarchy in terms of longevity. Every time a poison arrow was fired at that new member, no one from that family came to her assistance to call off the rabid dogs that they asked to do the deeds anyway. The mistake those in control made was to think that this was going to be another isolated person being abused behind hidden fists and voices. It is not, and will never happen, to our one and only person of colour that entered that space and dared to walk away from the abuse because she knew her worth. Most, if not all, in that family are frightened to leave because they have no skills that they can rely on to survive in the manner to which they have become accustomed throughout all of their lives. The media have tried to spin that the Sussexes now live in what they describe for this week or so in a cottage, and that they are the poorest among the wealthy residents of Montecito. Well, you know what? Without the fake monarchy and its services to the people that no one else can give, apparently, because they do not possess the blue blood of the royals and the white skin colour as a starting point, they can only find jobs with wealthy friends, because they can only list tasks on their CVs, not competence on how to turn a situation around and provide measurable success. The Sussexes are earning their money and have purchased their own home, an unknown concept to royals. Anything said recently by one British royal family sycophant, one of the usual, who's dragged out from his hole somewhere to come and spout comedy, officially known as allegiance to the king. Apparently, having contracts with the likes of Netflix and Spotify is all considered to be tacky, but apparently going on a reality show for celebrities on hard times with a need to be back in the limelight, where they have to go through all manner of interesting trials, including eating various body parts of a range of insect life, or selling milk to another country, but always ensure one of the royal family castles is in view in the background of the advert. Those two royal family members are in no way considered to be earning coins in a tacky way, but working for a living and securing valuable contracts which enable a better lifestyle than one that was offered by the royal family is considered tacky. No wonder it is said over and over by people with common sense. The double standards are so obvious to the wider audience and global population, and none of it looks good in any way. Accepting money in questionable methods more than once is also not considered tacky in royal circles, unless you're a person of colour living above stairs and not knowing her place, as all the other cacophony of Caucasian people surrounding her do not have to do. Or at the very least, they are given more leeway to stray outside of the norms, but not too far. Or they will be treated like spares, and we know from the 1,000+ year history of what happened to every one of those. Not one had a fulfilled and happy life. These are the kind of things and double standards which eat away at the foundation of this royal house of cards. Royal fans are generally in the age group of near or beyond retirement age. The polls that suggest otherwise are clearly choosing their target audience carefully. People classed as working royals who are under retirement age total 2. 2 people who have never worked and lived entitled, mollycoddled lives are meant to be seen by us as saviours of the monarchy. All that means is hanging on to a way of life that suits them. It has zero meaningful impact on the people of the UK. As a person of colour who is well qualified and experienced in life as well as work skills, I know that I would never be employed on that plantation behind gilded gates. And every time any of that family, but particularly the 7 working royals, speak about any topic, all I hear is they would not employ me. And if they did, it would be in a lower capacity, and I certainly would not be allowed to work above stairs, so to speak. Hence why I would never work there. I would never even do work experience there in my young days. Because, to be honest, even as a toddler, I possessed more skills than anyone in that family. Most working class people could run rings around the royal family and its living dinosaurs, otherwise known as courtiers. People of colour leave the womb and be knowing. It is a natural skill that we are born with, as we are aware that in order to survive in certain circles, we have to be confident in our abilities and be able to make our point without mirroring any stereotype that only white people reach conclusions about. The few coconuts out there are just confused individuals who obviously left the womb with issues already inbuilt. Now, all the societal groups, including law enforcement, are pooling together to ensure the way of life continues in such a way that protects their way of doing things. I am too advanced in age to remain in a country that sees me as less than, and that laws are being changed or introduced to make life living hell for increasing numbers, and people of colour will definitely have some hard times ahead. Old age pensioners, who are also people of colour, will have the highest risk of not being treated as they should be. As a result, my plans are well underway for me to leave the land of my birth. All I see is a monarchy that does not represent me, and how they abuse the newest and only person of colour into their family, and have continued the abuse even though that person and her family have also left the UK, and are still being abused on USA soil in a variety of ways. That situation will not continue forever. Be aware of that. In the search for ways to hang on to power and call it slimming down the monarchy. Now we have the Magnificent Seven travelling here, there and everywhere in a PR exercise that looks cringeworthy already. If the slimmed down monarchy is meant to save money because of the state of the nation right now, then I would love someone to tell me about all those who are taxpayer funded in terms of their living accommodation and their expenses, and they either were never working royals, or in some cases a few do a small amount of work, in inverted commas, that as far as I can see, there has been no suggestion that all these people are moving out of accommodation that they will fund moving forward. In terms of the seven, each have more than one home that is taxpayer funded, and it matters not whether it comes out of the sovereign grant, because none of the seven work and earn income of their own. So any fund that is set aside for the king or his heir or anyone else that takes their fancy and wrap it up in terms of expenses from other funds, all of it is taxpayer funded in some way. Cutting down the number of official working royals to 7 means 0 if the overall costs are picked up from a variety of budgets and funds. It is arguable as to what is deemed as work, and even better comedy when the same visit is classed as more than one engagement. It is called creative accounting in the real world. At least 2 of the 7 have never really worked, and none of them have completed one project over a 20-year period. Younger people coming up do not see the royal family the way that their grandparents and some parents do or did. The British royal family lost a lot of support because of their treatment of the Sussexes, Meghan in particular. And for that 6-year and counting campaign that is going on, the support base is reducing all the time. If you can treat one person who came in with all those credentials and experiences, something that the whole of the royal family, working and non-working combined, could never even come close to in terms of qualifications and experience, then what does it say to give any confidence to the rest of the country? I, for one, fear for my safety and my standard of living as I move further into old age, and the behaviour of the tabloids and the rest of the clout-chasing hangers-on who think it is fair sport to devalue and gaslight people of colour in any walk of life in the UK and beyond. Trust me when I say the UK monarchy is not safe, and I am confident that it will be one of the earlier ones to disappear over the coming years. The insincerity and the turning of a blind eye to many questionable events over the decades because of the other societal groups all supporting one another is another reason why the lifespan is shortening by deeds from within the monarchy itself. In the name of one of our podcasts, the British royal family and its associates are all slow dancing in a burning room. That's it for this week. Signing off for another week. As usual, I will look forward to speaking with you all in the comments later and on Monday when the article comes out, and as usual throughout the week as and when. So, another podcast done from me. So, bye from me, bye from Ivy, bye.